everyone, so this is Jen Melody. We're back with a tier list of season 2 Supernatural, the episodes. We are going to be tier listing every episode in season 2. I finally finished it and I'm actually a couple episodes into season 3. That's how good it is. I already named the tiers. Sorry if they're not exactly the same as before. I couldn't really remember like all of the names, but I named them for today. Trash, garbage, I'm bored, that was a solid episode, on the edge of my seat, and crying and screaming. Okay, so what's different about this time around is that I'm going to be reading the summaries for some of these episodes, for all the episodes, because I realized, people that haven't watched the show in a while probably need a reminder of what the episodes are about, just like in a general sense. And then people that also like haven't watched Supernatural but still want to watch this video because they're not planning on it but are curious, probably need to know what's going on and what I'm rambling about. So we are going to start with In My Time of Dying, which is the first episode of season 2. Let me read out the summary. Already, by the way, the titles are way better than before. Before in season 1, a lot of the titles were just like the name of the monster, and it's like, I don't want to know what the monster is before we start the episode. That's lame. So now a lot of them are song titles, but at least that's better than just being like, oh, Wendigo. Okay. But anyway, I'm gonna read the summary for In My Time of Dying. Sam, Dean, and John were left for dead after the demon plowed a semi into the Impala. Now one of the Winchesters hovers between life and death as the surviving family must face an old and powerful adversary. Okay, so the person between life and death is Dean Winchester. This is a Dean Winchester episode. If you are on my Instagram, you know I have a complicated relationship with Dean Winchester. I don't hate him. I do really like Dean. He's really well written. Okay, he's a very complex character. It's just that he says certain things that make me go, ugh, Dean, he frustrates me. But I do like Dean. Do I like Castiel, who hasn't shown up in the show yet, but he becomes a lead later? Do I like Castiel and Sam better? Yes, but that does that mean I think that Dean is a bad character? No. So moving on, this is a Dean Winchester episode. And I think it's a great opener to season 2. Tessa's introduced, who is a Grim Reaper. We get more Grim Reapers. I remembered Tessa. I was like, I know that she shows up multiple times in the show. I love the lore drop that we get where it's if you don't go with the Grim Reaper. 1, lore drop that Grim Reapers don't know what's on the other side, which is interesting. But 2, lore drop, if you don't go with the Grim Reaper, that's how people become angry ghosts. So we learn why, like, certain ghosts that weren't bad in life are bad in death. It's because they didn't go to the other side. So that's interesting. And that's what's going to happen to Dean if he didn't either come back to life or go with Tessa. So anyway, that was interesting. John and Sam's drama, always... I hate John. I'll always be a John hater. He's not a Dean in my eyes. He's just a bad parent. And I hate him. So, John and Sam drama, that was interesting. Always on Sam's side. Then John sells his soul to save Dean. The good thing he did, but also put a lot of pressure on Dean because he ends up telling him some information, which we'll talk about later because it gets revealed later in the season. But Dean is absolutely traumatized by this information because he doesn't know what the heck to do with it. Thanks, John. Anyway, overall a really great opener. It gives a good cliffhanger where you're like, what the heck did John tell Dean? Of course, I remembered because again, I am half rewatching this, half first time watching, because I was watching Supernatural before, but dropped it at one point. So anyway, this is episodes I've already watched, so there's stuff I don't remember, but then there's stuff that I do remember, and I do remember what John said to Dean, because it's kind of an important plot point. But Anyway, in my time of dying, it's not quite crying and screaming yet. Because I didn't feel like such heightened emotions yet. This is only episode 1, okay? We're just getting into it. So, it's on the edge of my seat. I'm interested, but I'm not crying and screaming. Alright, episode 2, Everybody Loves a Clown. Let me read this out for y'all. I'm already telling you right out the gate, I did not like this one that much. Hold on. Supernatural. Okay. So, this episode, Sam and Dean listen to a message on John's cell phone with a woman named Ellen and decide to track her down. They are shocked to discover Ellen runs a roadhouse that also serves as a gathering place for hunters like themselves. Meanwhile, at a small town carnival, a clown is persuading children to let them into their home so he can murder their parents. Why I don't like this episode is because it is so disconnected. I do like meeting Ellen and Joe and Ash, right? Love the Roadhouse gang. They're great. Ellen is their mother. Okay, for the episodes where she is, here. I will say nothing about that now. But, she is mother. I love Joe. Ash is hilarious. So that's all good. The clown stuff, what is that? And why? What was the purpose? I don't know. I mean, it's funny to discover that Sam's, big fear is clowns and not any of the monsters they fight. That's funny. It's kind of like Dean being afraid of flying. But other than that, I don't even remember what the type of monster the clown ended up being because it was so random and literally had nothing to do with the episode. It just was like, we need to make this clown guy a monster. This one. And then the way to kill him was super random where it was like, with a pure blade of bronze. Okay. And then they end up I forget what it's called, but those big... they were in a fun house and there was this instrument playing in the fun house and it had these tubes of bronze apparently on them, and and Sam pulled one out and then stabbed them on. It was so contrived. It wasn't it. It was a filler episode. I'm bored. Did it really offend me? No. So it doesn't go in trash garbage, but still, I don't know what this was. Third episode, Bloodlust. We are getting back on track with this episode. Let me read this out for you guys. So, Bloodlust. Sam and Dean meets Gordon, a fellow, it says demon hunter. He's more of a vampire hunter, but anyway. I'm reading this from the wiki, so if there's wrong information, or wrong terminology, I'm sorry. But anyway, Sam and Dean meets Gordon, a fellow demon hunter who has been systematically killing vampires in a small town, and Dean immediately bonds with the older man. However, after Sam meets with the lead vampire and discovers they are actually peaceful creatures who survive on cattle blood, he decides not all supernatural beings are evil and forces Dean to choose whether he will side with Sam or Gordon. Gordon scares the heck out of me. That actor is amazing because I'm scared of him. What a sociopath. He is hunter gone wrong to the extreme, where he does not have any emotion anymore for anybody. No empathy. Also, I love Sam. I love how emotional Sam is, and Dee makes fun of him for it, but I like that Sam can relate to beings that, even though they're not human, he can still see the good in them and wants to see the good in them. He wants to believe that monsters can be good because we dive into this later in the season, but he believes that he might be a monster, and he wants to believe that he can be good. And it's so sad. I love Sam. He's such a sad boy, especially in this season. But yeah, I love the vampires now in this episode, now that there's a purpose for them being here. Vampires are interesting in this universe because they're not fully evil, in my opinion, because hunters, right, they have to drink blood. It's how they survive. It's not their choice. And a lot of them didn't have a choice in being a vampire. I mean, either they were born a vampire, which you can't help who you're born as, but also some of them were forcefully turned into vampires, right? So a lot of the time it's not their choice to be a vampire, and they have to drink blood. And then here come these hunters that are killing them just for their existence, basically. And yet some of them still want to learn how to live together with hunters and humans without rocking the boat. And even though like cattle blood isn't as, like, you know, fulfilling as human blood for them, they are willing to do that so they can live, right? And that's interesting, and it's really sad and tragic. So overall, this episode was solid. I like the vampire stuff. I mean, Gordon scares the heck out of me in a good way. The actor's doing an amazing job. Yeah, and the Sam stuff is great. But I'm not on the edge of my seat. It didn't quite have me, like, it didn't have a good cliffhanger or anything. Alright, children shouldn't play with dead things. Children shouldn't play with dead things. Sorry, I'm typing this into my phone so I can read the summaries on my phone. But let's see. Alright. So the summary is: Dean and Sam investigate the death of a college student who has come back from the dead, seeking revenge on those who mistreated her while she was alive. Upon confrontation, again, sorry, the summary says the ghost, but she's actually like a type of zombie, savagely attacked Sam, leaving him injured. While in town, the brother visits their mother's grave to pass along something from their father. Right, okay. Dean is so allergic to feelings. The part where, like, Dean and Sam are visiting their mother's grave, the whole time he's like, nope, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not sad. What are you? And then he forcefully tries to, like, look for a case, but he ends up being right. But, like, he is totally looking for this, for anything to distract himself from thinking about his dead mom or his dead dad. So, you know, Dean's allergic to feelings. We know this at this point. The rest of the episode, It's like the most predictable episode where it's like, oh my god, the nice guy that wanted to be with the girl ended up, like, resurrecting her. Who would have thought? You know, it's not doing anything new. This part's gonna be super short because I don't have a lot to say about this episode. I'm bored. But it's better than Everybody Loves a Clown because it's less contrived. So the writing's a little bit better on Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Alright, Simon Said. We're back to an episode I really like. Simon Said. Okay. Sam and Dean meet Andy, a slacker who has psychic powers of persuasion, which he uses to gain favors with people. However, when some of Andy's friends start dying, the brothers question whether Andy is using his powers to kill. After learning that Andy's family was visited by the demon 22 years ago, Sam wonders if Andy is part of the group of children that demon told him about, and if that means he himself will eventually turn evil. Yeah, so this is when Sam convinces himself that he's gonna become a killer. Because this demon keeps pushing people into killing people, which is upsetting. Love the Sam angst though, because I love some good angst. Love it. Love Andy. Andy's super funny. I love the actor. I didn't know this was a fan favorite character. Apparently this actor has been to, like, multiple supernatural conventions. I didn't know that this actor was in high demand. Well, before, and now I see it because the character's super funny. But I love that this character has like mind control, basically powers that he could use for anything, but he uses it for silly, goofy reasons, because at heart he's not an evil guy. it was just a funny episode. Very charming character. The evil twin thing was scary though. Andy ends up having like, so Sam and Dean think that he's killing people, but it turns out that Andy has an evil twin that's killing people for him, and Andy's like, what? And it's super sad at the end when basically this girl, Andy's twin, puts this girl that Andy likes in danger because he's like, he's only mine. And the girl, Andy ends up having to use his powers on the girl to save her life, but the girl ends up scared of him, and he's like, why is she scared of me? She won't talk to me ever again because of what I did or who I am, and that's upsetting. I felt bad for Andy in that moment because he's just a silly, goofy guy. But anyway, very interesting plot episode. I tend to like the plot episodes a little better than filler episodes. That's just me. I understand the point of filler episodes, but you know. So Simon Said goes in. Is it a solid episode or is it on the edge of my seat? I think it's. Oh, I don't know. I think it's on the edge of my seat because I do like it more than Bloodlust for moving the plot along a little more, but it's not better than In My Time of Dying. I think In My Time of Dying really came out with a bang. Okay, No Exit. This is a good one. This has more Joe in it, who I love very much. No Exit. Okay, here is the summary. Sam and Dean investigate the brutal slayings of blonde women from an apartment building and discover the demon responsible is the ghost of the first serial murderer, H.H. Holmes. Meanwhile, defying her mother's wishes, Joe follows the Winchesters on their hunt and ends up getting captured by the ghost and buried alive. Right. Love a Joe episode. I love that Dean and Joe's relationship is kind of like older brother, little sister, where like Dean the entire episode is like, no, go home to your mother. This is dangerous. You're gonna get me in trouble. And Joe's like, no, I'm gonna do this hunt. I am strong and you can't tell me what to do. I love Joe so much. We learned that, I think we knew her father was dead, but this is when we learn more about her father, how she wants to hunt because she wants to feel close to her father, that's sweet. I mean, I feel like you should still stay home with your mom, but whatever. This is like definitely a Dean and Joe episode. Yeah, I just mostly liked it for the dynamic between Dean and Joe, and then we find out in this episode that apparently John, the worst man alive, is the reason why her father is dead. And then, of course, Dean and Joe's relationship kind of falls apart. I mean, I think it heals eventually, but it falls apart because Joe, you know, it's rough to learn that your friend's father and killed your father. So I think the way they explain it is that he didn't save. Like, I think they were using him as bait, and then John didn't end up saving their father. So John didn't directly kill her father, but he didn't end up saving him. So, you know. But, yeah. I like No Exit. It's good. Do I care about the stuff with H.H. Holmes? I mean, the ghost looked freaky. And the actor definitely made it freaky. The hand coming through the cage that that Joe was in was gross. Looked like a gross, dirty hand. I also like that Joe learned this business kind of rough. It's not easy. It's very dangerous. But she still ended up later going on hunts anyway. So, you know, good for her. So yeah, No Exit's good. Is it on the edge of my seat? No. But I do love it a lot. I think it goes above. Oh, sorry guys. I don't know what I just did. Hold on. There we go. I think it goes above Bloodlust. Because I like the character stuff going on. Alright, The Usual Suspects. This is where the plot of Dean being a man on the run continues. We love that plot. Hold on just a second. Let me read this out for you guys. Sam and Dean investigate the murders of a lawyer and his wife who claimed to have seen a ghost right before they died. However, after local detectives Ballard and Sheridan uncover the Winchester's records, they arrest the brothers for a double homicide before they are able to find the ghost. When the ghost begins to visit Ballard, she begins to wonder if the tale Sam and Dean are telling her could be true, and if she might be the next to die. Alright, so I guess The Usual Suspects is fine. There's nothing really like that interesting about the actual like haunted story in this one, other than the fact that like the Ballard's partner and partner detective ends up being the guy who killed the ghost, and the ghost was actually trying to warn Ballard, not like cause harm. So that was interesting, because that's a example of a ghost sticking around not because they're angry, but because they have unfinished business. But other than that, whatever. I mean, it was just a normal, like, typical supernatural ghost story. And honestly, we get a episode later in the season that continues this. Dean is a man on the run, a wanted man, a little better. So I think The Usual Suspects, it's not I'm bored, but that was a solid episode. But I think it's at the bottom right now. We will talk about the episode that's similar that I like better. But, alright, Crossroad Blues. This episode I really like. I remember Crossroad Blues. Some are supernatural. Okay. When two highly successful professionals die after claiming to be haunted by hellhounds, Sam and Dean investigate the local dive bar and discover it sits upon a site where a deal-making demon has been making people's dreams come true in exchange for their souls. Dean summons the demon to exorcise it, but is horrified after it reveals the painful truth about John's death and tempts Dean by offering him the one thing he wants more than anything, his father. Ooh, okay, number one, the opening for this, oh my god, the opening for this episode, the stylistic choices, the way it's filmed, the music, I love it so much. Because there's that famous story. Oh my god, I'm so sorry that I forget the name of the singer, but there's the famous story of the blues singer that sold his soul to the devil to become such a good guitar player. But yeah, that was great. I love the actor who played him. It was filmed really well. We get to see, I love the way they decided to portray hellhounds. Like, the way that they're invisible and only the person that made the deal can see them. And the way that, like, you could only see them when they made physical, like, marks on the person or did something to the person. I love that scene where the hellhound, like, rips the pants off of this, like, pant leg off of this person. And you can, it, like, is so violent. It looks so violent when they do it, and it's, oh my god, it's a great effect. I love hellhounds in this universe. What else do I like about this? Dean being like, well, they did it to themselves. That was interesting because he's not wrong. But Sam was like, no, we gotta help them. And yeah, I also, of course, love Dean's whole thing where he was almost tempted to take that deal. and he takes it lighter. But anyway, he was really tempted to make that deal, and that whole scene was really tense. Crossroad Blues is a very tense episode, I'd say, and it's really good. Also, I forgot when exactly Crowley, who's also a Crossroads demon, is introduced. So I thought in this episode we were going to see Crowley, but no. I forgot that this Crossroad demon is a woman. Not Crowley. And I was kind of disappointed. I was like, oh, I want Crowley already. He's a fan favorite character for a reason, but oh well. I will have to wait for his appearance, and that's fine. So, Crossroad Blues. I'm not crying and screaming just yet. My emotions aren't heightened just yet. So, I think this goes at the top of I'm on the edge of my seat. I do love how stylistic Crossroad Blues is. Croatoan. This one is interesting. Let's read it. Croatoan. Okay. So, after Sam has a vision of Dean killing a young man who seems to be possessed by a demon, the two brothers head off to Oregon to search for answers. They come across a town infected by a deadly virus that drives a person to kill. Sam becomes infected by one of the locals and prepares for his deadly fate. But after nothing happens to him, Dean decides to come clean and reveal what John whispered to him before he died. This is the episode where we find out that Sam, basically John said that something's going to happen to Sam. You either have to save Sam or you're going to have to kill Sam before he turns into a monster. Which, what? John, why would you say that about your son? Poor Sam thinks he's like a freak for his entire life. It's so upsetting. But anyway, Dean of course has been wrestling over this whole time because of course he doesn't want to kill Sam, and he refuses to kill Sam in this episode, even though Sam's like, you gotta kill me, or else I'll turn into a monster. And Dean's like, no, and it's, drama. But Croatoan, I feel like this episode was like a little too big for TV. You know what I mean? Where it was like a whole like virus apocalypse plot. But except it made no sense because how does a doctor that just works in a clinic know all this stuff about how like how can she just come up with a cure so fast if she's literally just like a normal doctor in a clinic that's just supposed to be there to give you like pills and and send you on your way? How does she know all this? So that was strange. The whole episode is in one area, which is fine, but kind of boring. I don't know. The plot felt way too big for TV. Or at least the budget that they had. So honestly, Croatoan is kind of, I'm bored. It's not trash garbage, but it's definitely better than Everybody Loves a Clown. Is it better than Children Should? Yeah, I did like the characters better in Croatoan. So it's at the top of I'm bored. It's not terrible at all. But yeah, I just felt like a little too much. But moving on to Hunted. This is interesting. I'm always going to say that about these episodes. This is a very solid season. Notice how I haven't put anything in trash garbage yet, but I haven't put anything crying and screaming yet. But we'll get there. Don't worry. We will get there for sure. Summary. Okay. After Dean tells Sam what their father told him before he died, a distraught Sam sneaks off to Indiana without Dean. While there, Sam runs into Ava, a psychic who confesses to Sam she sought him out to warn him of his impending death. Dean discovers Gordon is after Sam and races to find his brother in time to save him. Okay, everything with Ava is super interesting. Poor Ava is just like this normal girl that wants to marry her fiance, but Turns out she's one of these children that get psychic powers, and the dynamic between Sam and Ava's kind of funny because Sam is like, oh my god, you go home, you're a regular person, and Ava's like, no, I'm gonna figure out why I have these psychic, or at first she's like reluctant, she's like, I want to go home. And Sam's like, well, do you want to figure out why you have these psychic powers and stuff? And then, of course, she's like, I'm not just going to leave you. You're going to die. And he's like, no, go home. So they're funny, Sam and Ava. I love how in this show, I love when, like, one of the boys has to run away. They run away to a totally different state. It's funny. What else did I forget exactly what Sam was doing. A lot of the, like, I just don't remember why he was in Indiana. Like, what was he looking for? I don't remember. I can't remember if he was looking for something specific. Oh, wait, you know what? I think he was following, I think I remember. I think Ash told him about another, like, psychic kid. And he was following that guy. But he finds out that that guy died already. And so they go to the guy's therapist to find out more information about him and his psychic powers. But again, it sounds a lot that I don't remember any of that. I was more interested in Sam and Ava. And then at the end of the episode, Ava gets kidnapped, so we're like, oh no, who kidnapped Ava? So what happened to her? Is she dead? Like, her fiance is dead? And yeah, I'm not bored, but it's not on the edge of my seat. It's a solid episode. Think at the bottom, because I remember more about the usual suspects than Hunted. Moving on. Playthings. This one is so good. Okay, Sam and Dean investigate two strange deaths at a small Connecticut inn run by a single mom, whose young daughter plays with an imaginary friend. The brothers find evidence of voodoo around the inn, but soon realize the little girl's imaginary friend may, in fact... That's wrong. So the summary says she might be a demon. She's a ghost. The friend may, in fact, be a demon who is killing the townspeople. What? Oh, yeah, that's right, because people are visiting the hotel. That's right. Who is killing the townspeople. Okay, she's not a demon. She's a ghost. Wiki. Anyway. So, Playthings is interesting. And the first one where I can say it definitely has that old haunted vibe, because it happens in, like, an old hotel, and I like the aesthetic of the old hotel with the dolls and stuff. That's interesting. It's interesting that it turns out it's the grandma's sister that's the ghost, and she died as a child. The scene with the pool, when the little girl falls into the plastic covering in the pool and can't swim, that is scary, because that's a real thing. I remember my mom always told me, like, do not ever walk on the plastic on the covering on the pool, because it will trap you and you will not be able to swim. So that was oof. And the last scene with the grandma ends up dying, agrees to die, and then the sister, and stays when she dies in the hotel with the sister forever. And that's why she lets the little girl go. But there's a last scene where they're doing jump rope in the hotel together. That was haunting. I love the way everything's shot. I love the aesthetic of this episode. The only thing I would have a critique on is the fact that Sam randomly gets drunk in the middle of this episode. And, like, out of context, his lines are really funny. Where, like, he's, like, drunk, and and Dean's like, what the heck happened? And then Sam's like, you're bossy. And Dean's like, are you drunk? And he goes, yeah. So? Like, it's well acted and really funny, but, like, in context, it's like, why is he randomly drunk? What is going... I understand that Sam is going through a lot right now, but it was just... Like, and he got drunk because, like, he couldn't save someone or whatever that died in the hotel, but it was just out of nowhere, and it just was like, okay, this is a random time to have character angst. But other than that, Playthings is really good. Into I'm on the edge of my seat for me. I was really interested in the story of this episode. I like it better than Simon Said, but not better than In My Time of Dying, I think. So it's right here. Night Shifter is... Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me read the summary for Night Shifter. This is the episode where I was talking about where it has a better take on the Dean is a man on the run plot. Okay, so Sam and Dean investigate a string of robberies with a disturbing pattern. In each incident, a trusted employee holds up the bank, then commits suicide. However, when the autopsy reports show their actual time of death as several days before the robbery, Sam and Dean realize the shapeshifter has returned. Okay, so Night Shifter, I find interesting because there's a character in Night Shifter that is like a typical like conspiracy theory like comedic character, except it really takes a dark turn because this guy really, well, one, he's correct, right? Except for the fact that he calls the shapeshifter a mandroid, which is not obviously not true, but he's correct in like the shapeshifter existing and what their goal is. But Sam is like, no, we can't tell him that it's actually real because then he'll get himself in danger. And that's what he does. He gets himself in danger, and it takes a really dark turn. And the guy I forget his name, but the guy in this episode that's a conspiracy theorist ends up getting shot, and it's really sad because they're trying to defeat this shapeshifter in a bank. And so it looks like they're robbing the bank. And so then the feds show up, and apparently we learned that the feds this entire time has been after Dean. Because, Dean has committed so many crimes in their eyes. And, yeah, so the whole, they're stuck in the bank trying to defeat this monster, but the feds are just outside, and there's helicopter. This was super, big for a Supernatural episode, but they, unlike Croatoan, they got, things that actually made it feel like the level it should be at. They had the helicopters, they had the news reporters outside, and all this stuff. There was trucks. It was crazy. And the shapeshifter did some really cool tricks in order to trick up the characters, where the shapeshifter at one point pretends to be the dead body they left behind, but it's actually them. And yeah, it's just it's interesting for sure. Yeah, and sad, honestly. It was quite sad to see that guy died. Also, it gets an extra point for referencing Doctor Who. At one point when the guy is trying to explain his mandroid theory, he holds up a magazine that has a Cyberman on it, which is a Doctor Who villain. So I was like, oh, Doctor Who! Oh my god! Were they aware of Super Who-Lock this early? I don't know if Super Who-Lock was a thing that early in these seasons, but I had to think about it. It was definitely one of the most popular shows on TV other than Supernatural at the time. So, yeah, Night Shifter goes on the edge of my seat. I do like it above Playthings, so it goes there. Moving on, Houses of the Holy. Oof, this one has so much accidental foreshadowing, it's crazy. So let's read this summary. Okay. Sam and Dean investigate the murders of several people by individuals who claim they were visited by an angel and were carrying out God's will. After the brothers learn those murdered were actually guilty of secret crimes, Sam begins to believe this angel really does exist, but Dean stands firm on the fact a demon is behind. Not demon, Supernatural Wiki. Not everything's a demon. Okay, sorry, but Dean stands firm on the fact a ghost is behind the slayings until he sees something even he can't explain. Okay. Oh my god. This episode. has so much accidental because apparently I was so convinced that like Eric Kripke had planned angels way in advance because of this episode. No, he did not. Apparently, he had no idea that he was going to implement angels in the later seasons. Okay, not later. I mean, season 4 isn't a later season, but anyway, apparently, he was like. He must have looked back at Houses of the Holy and was like, yeah, let's add angels because that would make sense, be an actual progression for this show. Because they talk about angels being like warriors, not like figures of like healing and goodness and all that. They're like, no, in the Bible, actually, they were described as scary and warriors of God and all that stuff, which is exactly how angels are portrayed in Supernatural, where they're not like these cuddly beings. They're actually like quite terrifying and strong, and they live to serve God, not people. So anyway, that they reference Michael being like God's like, I forget how they word it, but God's like main warrior, which is definitely true later on. Michael is introduced later on. Just talking about Sam's faith in God and how Dean doesn't believe in God at all, but then by the end when Dean witnesses like this crazy death, he ends up sort of maybe opening up to the fact that maybe God is real, which is interesting. It was just a crazy episode where I was like, did they know all along that Castiel was going to be a character and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, so Houses of the Holy, it was interesting that like the ghost was just a ghost of a priest that thought that like when he died he became an angel that needed to punish people, but he just really was just lost and needed to like properly be like read his rights and then move on. So Houses of the Holy had me spiraling, but it wasn't quite on the edge of my seat. It's just a really solid episode. I think I like it better than all of these though. So it goes at the top of that was a solid episode. Alright, Born Under a Bad Sign. Guys, we're getting our first trash garbage. But first, let me read the summary. I hope this isn't, like, gonna anger anyone. I hope this isn't, like, a fan favorite episode. That would be my luck. Me being the only person that hates this episode. Okay. After receiving a frantic call from Sam, who has been missing for over a week. Sam's always missing. Dean races to his brother's side. He finds Sam covered in blood, but unable to remember anything that happened. Upon investigation, the brothers are horrified to discover a tape that shows Sam killing another hunter in cold blood, causing Sam to believe his evil side is finally taking over. Why do I not like this episode? Okay, well, possessed Sam is fine, whatever. They make Sam in this episode carry out SA. Now, my problem with that is that they just carry out the SA and then they never talk about it again. It's never talked about how that affects Joe, because it's Joe, a main, or not main female character, but like a pretty prominent female character that they do this to. They never talk about how that affects her. They kind of just get over it because like, Sam is possessed and whatever, and they move on with the plot, and it was just there to be violent. Do they glorify it? No. But again, it was just there to be violent. It's a bad taste in my mouth. I don't like it. It kind of ruined the entire episode for me. Trash garbage. That was unnecessary. It was really unnecessary. I hate how this show treats its female characters sometimes. What was the point of that? There was none. Also, the fact that it's Meg possessing Sam. Why'd they make her my girl do that? That's so messed up. Anyway, I understand she's evil, but like, ugh, gross. Yeah, I don't really care about anything else in this episode. That was gross. Moving on. Tall Tales. Back to an episode that's good. It also has stupid, misogynistic views of women in this one too, but whatever. It's not as bad. I'm just gonna, when you watch Supernatural, you're just gonna have to deal with female objectification. It just is a, not saying it's right, I'm just saying it's the 2000s. Anyway. Summary. Sam and Dean call upon their family friend and fellow hunter, Bobby, for help after they are stumped by violent and inexplicable happenings on a local college campus. Bobby arrives with a suspicion as to the culprit behind the killing spree and the brothers' escalating feud. This episode is so funny. I love Tall Tales. Oh my god. Number one, it introduces a fan favorite character who is known as the trickster at this point, so I won't reveal his real name at this point in time. But the trickster's here. Richard Spade Jr. is here. We love him. He is so charming and comedic. I love the trickster in this episode. Obviously, the thing that the trickster does, I didn't remember the context of the guy dancing with the alien. I see that out of context compilations all the time for Supernatural, and I forgot what episode it was in, and I was like, oh yeah, and it's funny in context as well. And the whole Sam and Dean feud in this episode, how they view each other, is really funny. I love how Dean sees Sam as like this super over emotional person. And Sam only sees in his side of the story, sees him as just like a womanizing guy who never pays attention to the case they're working on, which, I mean, he's not wrong, but like, you know. And then Bobby is there. We get to see more of Bobby being their dad, where he's like, can you boys stop? Can you like chill out and like just, if you like were paying attention, you already know the answer to this case, you idiots. So anyway, Tall Tales is great. I'm actually crying and screaming, but I'm not crying and screaming of sadness. I'm crying and screaming of laughter. I love this episode. Next episode is Roadkill. Let me read the synopsis for this one. Oh, I keep typing in summary. I mean to type in Supernatural. Okay, Roadkill. While diving down a deserted road, Sam and Dean are startled by a bloody woman named Molly. I'm reading this totally wrong. Okay, while driving down a deserted road, Sam and Dean are startled after a bloody woman named Molly bolts out in front of the Impala, screaming for help from the crazy farmer who is chasing her. Sam and Dean investigate and discover the man is actually an angry spirit who kills one person the same time every year and has decided Molly will be his next victim. This whole episode, I feel like the interesting part of it is the twist, where we find out Molly is not alive. She's dead, and she was the person that killed the farmer, like hit him with her car. And she's been dead for a very long time, and she has to come to terms and move on. And every year the farmer keeps killing her in like a cycle. And that was interesting and really sad and tragic. The rest of the episode, nah. Typical ghosts, salt and burn. Or I forget, did they end up destroying him because of a salt and burn? I can't remember. But anyway, very typical. We must put ghosts to rest plot. But also not typical twist. So, it was a solid episode. I wasn't bored. That was a good twist. I think it's better than Hunted, but not The Usual Suspects. Oh my god, this one I'm about to talk about. I'm about to go off about this episode. I will read you the summary real quick. After investigating the death of a lawyer, who appear to have been killed by a wild animal, Sam and Dean realize they are tracking a werewolf. Sam is immediately attracted to the lawyer's secretary, Madison, and when it seems as if Madison will be the werewolf's next victim, Sam offers to stay overnight to protect her. Dean heads out to hunt the animal and is stunned by what he finds. Bro, Sam! Sam can never have a good time. So it turns out that Madison is the werewolf. And Sam is like, she's a werewolf, but like she didn't want to be a werewolf. She got bitten. She doesn't even know that she's a werewolf at first. She doesn't know she's going out and killing people. And he's like, we gotta save her because she didn't want to be this way. She's not killing people on purpose. And Dean's like, I don't know. They say there's no cure. And they think they found a cure, but they didn't find a cure. And she ends up being a werewolf anyway. And she's like, kill me. And Sam's like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't kill you. There has to be a way. And then he ends up having to kill her. And there's this really sad scene where he's just crying. And then he has to go in and shoot her. And it's really sad because he had a connection with her. And it's just more proof to him that eventually Dean will have to kill him because he will become a monster. And it was, Jared Padalecki, I don't know him. I know some people don't like him because of things he did in the past. I don't know that much about him. But if there's one thing, he's a good actor, because that scene where he's crying was really believable, and I felt for Sam, for sure. That was crying and screaming. I felt so bad for him. I think I enjoyed Tall Tales a little more, but Heart, that's an upsetting episode. And here's another crying and screaming episode, but because I'm laughing so hard, here's where I feel like the season like really hits its stride. Hollywood Babylon. Hold on just a second. Alrighty. Pulling up the summary. Sam and Dee make a trip to Hollywood to investigate the death of one of the actors on a horror film set after rumors begin that he was killed by a ghost. They discover the death was a publicity hoax, but when the executive producer and a studio executive are killed, Sam and Dean realize they are dealing with a haunted set. Gary Cole guest stars as Brad Redding, one of the stars of the horror film. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so the actual haunting isn't really that interesting, but the jokes that they make in this episode are so meta. I love them. Right off the gate, when they're taking a tour of the set, like a star tour or whatever, and the lady says, oh, and here we might meet one of the actors for Gilmore Girls. And of course they're referencing Jared Padalecki because he played a character named Dean, actually, on Gilmore Girls. And Sam kind of looks at the camera and gives a look and then gets off of the cart, and I was like, that's so funny. I love that. They make a joke about how the weather because they're supposed to be in LA in this episode, but they say, the weather is practically Canadian because it's raining all the time, and they're actually filming in Vancouver. That was really funny. Just like, I love the joke where they're like, I forget if they said I think they said, what's a PA, right? And Dean goes, I think they're like slaves. Just overall, the trailer they make for the movie they're making in the episode is really good. It was just a really funny episode. It was a good time. We needed an uplifting episode after Heart. The sadness of Heart. Yeah, really funny episode. That's all I gotta say. It goes in crying and screaming of laughter. Next is Folsom Prison Blues. Hold on, let me pull it up. Folsom Prison Blues. My throat's starting to hurt, guys. Well, we'll get through. Okay. After hearing about a ghost that has been killing off inmates one by one, Sam and Dean decide the best way to investigate this spirit is from the inside and allow themselves to get thrown into the state penitentiary. However, after FBI agent Henriksen shows up to take over their case, getting out of prison becomes a bigger challenge than finding the spirit. Okay. Once again, we have Dean is a man on the run. And now Sam plot. It thickens because they think, oh, we're gonna get out of this prison lickety split, and then they find out that the FBI agent that's on their trail is making sure that they stay in that freaking prison. So yeah, but other than that, I don't know. This episode was okay. It was kind of a random story where it's like, oh, the nurse is haunting the prison, and also how it was kind of a episode filled with convenience, because you can't just because you get arrested doesn't mean you're gonna go to a certain prison in the States. It's like, how'd they know they were gonna get into that prison specifically? Did their friend that they were doing this case for end up making sure that they got in the prison? I don't know. I'm bored. It's not horrible, but it's like, I don't know. Nothing interesting happened. Definitely better than Everybody Loves a Clown, though. Is it better than Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things? Yeah, because I feel like I enjoyed Dean in this episode, because Dean did a lot of like fighting with the prisoners and becoming friends with some of the prisoners, and he was really good at gambling for cigarettes, and it was kind of funny. But other than that, but it's a whatever episode. It's a filler. What is and what shouldn't be? Stab me in the heart. I think it's what should never be, but I could be wrong on that. What is and what shouldn't be. Let's see the title. Yeah, it's what is and what should never be, but it's fine, whatever, both titles work. While hunting a djinn, Dean is attacked and transported to a world where his mother is alive. Sam is in law school and engaged to Jessica, and Dean lives a very normal life with his girlfriend. However, after he starts seeing a strange girl and learns all the people he has saved in the past have died, Dean must decide whether he wants to stay in this new safe life where everyone he loves is alive, or if he should return to the hunt. Bro, Dean has me in shambles. Because he's such eldest daughter energy. He might be a little bit like me, and that's kind of scary. Not in the way he acts, but like just like some of his issues I can relate to, like the whole feeling like you're responsible for these children. A little bit of a parent for these children when you probably shouldn't be. But Dean being the one tired of this job. I love that in season 1 he's very insistent, because, you know, he loves his father. He sees his father as a role model, and he's like, no, this is the job, and we do the job, and hunting is the most important thing because our dad wants us to hunt. But now that his dad is dead, he's like, what's the point? I didn't actually want to be a hunter. I was just doing this for my dad. And now my dad is dead. And life in this imaginary world is way better where I'm not a hunter. Even though him in this universe, him and Sam, like, don't get along as well, because Sam ended up, like, having a normal life. And Dean and Sam are so different, and they don't have that one thing that they relate to, which is their dad and hunting, that they wouldn't really get along in this normal universe. They're not as close. But Dean would rather not be close to Sam and see Sam have a healthy, fulfilling life, which is really sad. That's so sad, man. And seeing Dean, and Dean's like, why do I have to be the one to save the world and save all these people? But he knows that if he doesn't go back, these people are gonna die, and so he ends up doing it anyway. You know, Sam in the real world needs him. And Sam in the real world is like, I'm glad you came back because I need you. And Dean is like, I'm so tired. And I'll stop talking about it, but bro, Dean, man, this had me crying and screaming above all of them. in the sad way. Oh my god. Anyway, All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1. And we're gonna keep crying and screaming. Damn. All hell breaks loose. Hold on, guys. Oh. Loose. Oh my god, I can't type. Part 1. Let's read this. Okay, Sam is abducted by the yellow-eyed demon and finds himself in a ghost town with other children who have special abilities. They learn the demon has brought them together to initiate his endgame, an all-out war against the human race. In an effort to encourage Sam to fight, the demon shows him what really happened to one of his parents. Dean enlists Bobby's help to find Sam before the battle begins, but he arrives too late. Spoiler alert, Sam dies at the end of this episode. Permanently? No. Like every other time in Supernatural. But at the end of this episode, he dies. You're like, oh, what's gonna happen? And yeah, just it was interesting seeing Ava being the one that, like, apparently Ava has been there for 5 months, right? She was kidnapped by Yellow Eyes. She was kidnapped for 5 months, and in that 5 months, she was battling all these, like, psychic kids to decide who's gonna be the leader of the demon army. And she's been murdering all these people this entire time. She started out like, I'm just a silly, goofy girl who wants to go back to being with her fiance. Turns out she's been murdering so many people. What a crazy twist. Also, Andy's dead. My poor boy. What the heck? I wish we got to see more of Andy, but no, he's dead. It's nice to see a guy die, though, for once, and not the women. But anyway, Andy's dead. Is his name Jacob? Jake? Whoever the other guy is in that group, he is interesting because he is, like, seems like this upstanding guy. But, like, once he's pushed, survival will take over, and he's the one that kills Sam to escape. But anyway, Jake's interesting. I think his name is Jake. Yeah, just an octane, I guess, episode. I love seeing Bobby. I always love seeing Bobby show up. Yeah, a culmination of a lot of things. Not quite crying and screaming, though, I'd say, now that I've talked about it, because I think the second half is where I'm crying and screaming. Where does it go? I think right below in my time of dying. Hey, thank you. Let me switch you. Okay, and now, finally, we're at the last episode. All Hell Breaks Loose, Part 2. Oh. I was so surprised because I forgot how a lot of how this season plays out. I was so surprised when Part 1 was not the end. I was like, what? I thought that was the end of Season 2 where Sam ends up dying. But no. There's a Part 2 to this. Okay. Dean must deal with the aftermath of the fight between Sam and Jake. I was right. His name is Jake. And pays a steep price for his involvement. The demon and his spirits threaten to... The demon and his spirits? It's just the demon and his other demons. Oh my god. With Supernatural Wiki, get your terminology correct. Okay, the demon and his spirits threaten to overtake the hunters until they receive help from an unexpected ally. Anyway, okay. So what happens in this episode is that, Dean makes a deal with the Crossroads demon, finally, to bring Sam back to life. Because he cannot live without Sam, but the deal is that he only can live for 1 year. And that's really upsetting. And seeing Dean deals with grief very violently. There's a scene where, like, Dean is trying to deal with his father's death, and he just absolutely crashes out on the cars in Bobby's, salvaging, I guess, like, shop, and he just absolutely destroys everything around him. And here he, like, I remember watching this episode and I was like, do not touch Bobby like that. Bobby is only trying to help. Anyway, but he pushes Bobby and he's like, He deals with grief super violently, and it's really tough to see. Then he makes the bad decision. Makes a deal with the Crossroads Demon, which is going to lead to even more angst later in Season 3. And then we find out that Yellow Eyes was planning with Jake by using Jake, to open a gate to hell, which would release a ton of freaking demons. His whole army. That was the plan. And then Yellow Eyes shows Sam that freaking... Oh, I think this isn't the... Sorry, my bad. In the previous episode, we find out that Mary knew the demon. Also that Sam has demon blood in him. That's how he has his psychic powers, is because he ingested demon blood, which, oh no. But, Mary knew the demon. He knew Yellow Eyes. Anyway, so they open a gate to hell. Whoopsie, or they don't, but Yellow Eyes does, and they try and close it. Ellen comes back. That's another thing that happened. Ellen's not dead. Yay! Ellen's not dead, unlike Ash. Rest in peace. That was another thing that happened in the previous episode that I forgot to mention. The freaking roadhouse is burned down. R.I.P. to the roadhouse. Really sad that lasted, like, only one season. But Ellen comes back. Ellen's alive. Ellen tries to help them close the gate to hell. Yeah, another high-octane episode. Like, that was a lot. Oh, and then, oh my god. And then Yellow Eyes goes like, you know that you should be playing with things that are dead. And what makes you think that the Sam that came back is 100% Sam? And that was, oh gosh, oh no. Bad things are gonna happen. Bad things are gonna happen to Dean. And bad things are gonna happen to Sam. And no one's gonna be happy. So anyway, love the cliffhanger that this left us off on, of like, is Sam really Sam? Is Dean gonna go to hell? Spoiler alert, the answer is yes. He is gonna go to hell, but not forever. So this one goes in crying and screaming. I was like, oh no, the bad things, they're happening. Except for the fact that Yellow Eyes dies. That's right, before I leave you off, Yellow Eyes is in fact dead. Dean shoots him with the Colt. Everyone clap. Finally, they're dead. So, do I like... I think it goes above Hollywood Babylon, but not above Heart, because Heart really had me in shambles. Anyway, that's all for today, folks. I'm glad you were here on this journey. This is a longer episode than the last one. Video. I'm so sorry. I just love to yap, especially about this show right now, because it has taken up every part of my brain currently. So I hope y'all have a good rest of your day, and see you later.